Hey everybody, so I hope everyone's having a good week. This is going to be my entry for Andy's Vinyl Den, his 777 subscribers contest, which is just called Mixtape, as you can see by the title of this video. So let me explain the contest if you don't know. You're just supposed to make a mixtape, just 10 different songs from 10 different artists. It can be about whatever you want. There's a little room for creativity there. So what I'm doing for mine is I'm just making a mixtape of good emo music. Now I know the term emo can turn a lot of people off like instantly. That's just a weird phenomenon that has. I don't really understand it. People, I feel like, don't give it a fair chance all the time. And my mixtape here isn't even going to, I won't even claim to say that it's some kind of perfect intro to emo, or the 10 best emo songs, or the 10 best emo bands. I just picked 10 that I really love and that I think that other people would enjoy too. And a few of these I've talked about before, a few of them I have not. So I'm going to talk about less about the songs on this one, more about the artists themselves. So this first one here, track 1 on the playlist, will be the opener from Say Anything's perfect album. I consider this like a perfect record. Is a Real Boy. The album opener is called Belt. It begins with like a spoken word sample, and then you can hear Max Bemis intro the album, and the song itself kind of gets this kind of energy, this kind of youthfulness, and I'll say now the term emo, a lot of times it really does not mean anything. It's not like a cohesive sound. It's almost as cheesy as it is, more of like a movement of music as opposed to a specific genre. It's really the borders between the genre of emo and pop punk and punk in general, hardcore, they get blurred a lot of times. And this is one band, Say Anything, I think skews a little towards the pop end of things. Good hooks, melodies are there. Pretty conventional songwriting, but fantastic songwriting at that. So opener will be Belt from that album. Track 2, I've talked about this before, but I don't know how many people have seen it, is one of my favorite bands, Tiger's Jaw. They have this split release here with a band called Tiny Empires. But the band Tiger's Jaw themselves, on this track, or on this split 7-inch, they have a track called My Friend Morrissey, which is where I get my album title directly. And it kind of speaks a little bit towards some of their influences and music they like in general. And for a lot of these bands, they press to records, and I'll say now that pressing quality isn't like audiophile quality, or even the mixing or mastering will be audiophile quality. The pressings are always decent. I've never had any issues with warping or skipping or anything like that. But they keep them affordable. They're rarely over like $18 at the highest. They're usually between 15 and 18, maybe like 21, 22 for if it's a double. And they usually tend to do a couple really cool colors. So this 7-inch, this version is on a split white and blue. That matches the artwork really well, actually. You can see there. And yeah, anyway, the track My Friend Morrissey is a bit of a deep cut for Tiger's Jaw. It wasn't on any of their major records, which they have 4 now. I wouldn't even say it sounds... No, I would actually say it does kind of encompass or give a great example of what they actually sound like. So that I think would be an excellent introduction to Tiger's Jaw themselves. And Tiger's Jaw skews more towards the indie rock side of things, a little outside of the punk spectrum. Still kind of in the emo family, in my opinion. And it is heavily opinion based, a lot of these bands. One heavily associated with a kind of emo revival that's been going on since about 2012, 2011. Modern Baseball, they're kind of headed almost like a new kind of style of emo. This record came out in 2013. It's called Sports. There's a track on here, the track 2 called Tears Over Beers, which is fantastic. It has pop appeal. It's a great story in songwriting, and the song itself is really enjoyable. And you'll notice instantly the band has a kind of vocal style that I think gets copycatted a lot in a lot of modern emo records. And I think they have 3 records in that, but this is their first one. It's on this, you can't really see it that well in the sleeve or in this lighting, but it's on like a marble gray. You can see a little better there. There you go. And this has been pressed so many times now. I think it's in so many colors, and it's on cassettes, and it's really easy to find for cheap. I would highly recommend this one if you like the track Tears Over Beers, and maybe also check out the opener, Redo. There's a bit of a sequel on the same record called Redone. Lots of great tracks on here. The Weekend, Hours Outside in the Snow, Cook, Coles, fantastic record, Modern Baseball. Now, a band that I've definitely talked about before also, this album's in my top 100. I can't remember what number exactly, I think in the mid-30s somewhere. It's this band called The Hotelier. This record's called Home, Like No Place Is There. Great photography on here. The record is really important to me in terms of emotional attachment, and that's where a lot of the term emo comes from. If I remember right, it started from a few hardcore bands that were kind of branching into a different kind of sound that for some reason got called emo-core, and they all hated that term. This sounds nothing like any of them, but it keeps the same kind of emotional seriousness. There's a track on here, the track I'm picking on here is called In Framing, which is track 3. See, it's kind of translucent red vinyl. A little more on it's in the indie spectrum, but it also has a few elements of something a little heavier, slightly more on the hardcore side of indie, if that even makes sense. That's the thing about emo that I love, is there's so many bands that kind of make so many different sounds with the same, instruments, bass, guitar, drums, and yet so many different styles, and they're all considered the same thing. It's really hilarious to me. But yeah, Hotelier, In Framing is the song I picked, and it really has a really fantastic bridge section. This other band I've definitely talked about before too. I think their second album was on my top 100, but this is their first full-length album. The World is a Beautiful Place, I'm No Longer Afraid to Die. This record is called Whenever, If Ever. Sorry, I almost blanked on the title there. Really love that photo as well. You'll notice a lot of these records have great cover art. And again, this one's on a color. It's kind of marble pink. I think this is a early pressing of this one. This one's been pressed tons of times too, but earlier pressings are a little harder to find. No, I think this is actually a later pressing. I used to have an earlier pressing that I passed up. So the song I picked on here is one that I think is a great introduction to the band. It's called Picture of a Tree That Doesn't Look Okay. This band has kind of a unique style, almost some post-rock elements mixing with that kind of indie rock and a little bit of the hardcore style as well. So it's a really interesting sound, a really unique sound. And on this record especially, I will say that their lineup changes constantly. I can hardly keep up with it. They're cycling through members very quickly usually, but there's 3 or 4 I think that have been in the band consistently, and they're all on this record with a bunch of other extra people. And this version of the band features a lot more vocalists, so in the song you'll hear a lot of different singers singing different parts, and sometimes all at the same time. This band I've never seen talked about before. They're called Cattywampus, which I think is a fantastic name. This record's called Feathering Your Nest, which I think is their second one. Is it even a full length? It's only 6 tracks. Maybe it's like an EP. I don't know, but inserts are falling out. Black vinyl, this one. The song I picked is the title track, Feathering a Nest. I thought it fit well with the kind of World's a Beautiful Place sound with a few of the post-rock elements. And good guitar work on this from this band. Great musicians and really interesting songs that maybe even slide towards the more experimental side of things. I wouldn't go so far as to say like prog, but think of slightly off-kilter, like a Modest Mouse or like a Built to Spill or something like that, a Yola Tango. Next up, this band I've also definitely talked about before, Foxing, their debut album, The Albatross. One of their best tracks on here is track 3, it's called The Medic. What can I say about The Medic? Just, you can really feel the emotion in the band Foxing. Again, a little bit more on the indie side of things, with actually a few post-rock elements in as well, come to think of it. I didn't really, maybe I did intend to kind of chain all these songs together with the post-rock elements in the groups, but yeah, the guitar work or the soundscapes they kind of create with the fantastic vocals on top of everything. I really enjoy those. I really enjoy that sound. This record's on the kind of clear with like a milky center. It's really interesting. And I really enjoy their second record too, The Dealer, or I think it's just called Dealer. But they're label mates with Brand New and Into It Over It, who I'll talk about in a little bit, and a bunch of other really great bands on that kind of spectrum of that side of the punk world. Check them out if you've never heard them, as well as with all of these. A band that was really great live here is this group, A Great Big Pile of Leaves. This record's called You're Always on My Mind. You can see the kind of artwork there and the signatures I got from the whole group when I picked this up at the show. And this really nice blue kind of turquoise marbled vinyl. The track I picked here is called Amber Version, which I feel maybe kind of sums up the entire a lot of the emotional themes behind this genre are in the track Amber Version, which is kind of about, you know, you have your introverts and your extroverts, and you have people that are both Amber Version, but with kind of a twist on it, because the chorus says, I get so extroverted only when no one else is looking. Yeah. I can relate to a lot of that. I think the VC here is a great outlet for me to, you know, put a lot of myself out there socially, and yet I'm here in this apartment all by myself filming this. So who am I really talking to? Anyway, yeah, the track Amber Version, really great guitar playing in this band. The singer has a great voice too. He would really fit in mainstream rock, I think. This is a little more straightforward band. Still in the emo genre though. Now probably the big granddaddy of all emo bands and emo records in general is this debut from American Football, 1999 I think. I have to put the track Honestly, it's Honestly with a question mark at the end. I have to put that in any kind of emo playlist that I would make for the VC. So here it is. It's one of the longer tracks on the record. Only like the first 40% of it actually has vocals, and the rest of it is like an outro, like a long. Again, I compare it to like Built to Spill or something. This whole instrumental thing. If you know the track Only in Dreams by Weezer, I would also kind of compare it to that, where it's kind of just repeating over and over again Really fantastic, great, actually, full band American football. They have this kind of twinkly guitar sound that's really popular with the genre, and you'll know kind of what I mean almost instantly once you hear the lead guitar come in. It's so like shimmery, and the treble and it is so upfront, and the playing itself is really light. Um, Lots of arpeggios, usually open chords and arpeggios plucked one string at a time. The bass playing on the song honestly is fantastic, and the drumming is great. The vocals are great. Just a great band. This was really high up in my top 100 as well. And to close it out, I have this song by Into It Over, who I'm actually wearing a t-shirt for, which is a great vinyl shirt in general. I'll show it real quick. It's a peanut strip, copyright infringement, but it's the one that says buying records cheers me up. Whenever I feel low, I buy some new records. And then it just has the band Into It Over there at the bottom. But Into It Over is led by this dude called Evan Weiss, and that's sideways there. And he is, I think, one of the best songwriters out there for any genre. He just pumps out so many songs, and they're all so consistently great. And they may, yeah, sure, sound a little bit similar to each other. He doesn't really branch outside of a certain sound too often. He has a couple of projects, his main one being Into It Over. He has like Pet Symmetry, why am I blanking? There, with like the word there spelled 3 different ways, you know. Couple others that I'm blanking on for some reason, but this is his, it's almost like a solo project. I think he plays a lot of the instruments on here, like the drums, all the guitars, bass, that kind of thing, and he sings as well, obviously, and they're all his own songs. But the song off of here I'm picking is the closer to side 1. It's called Midnight Carroll Street, and I think that gives a great, it's a great example of his songwriting style, and how fantastic of a songwriter he is, and multi-instrumentalist. And his ability of storytelling is fantastic, and he's just awesome, and he was a really cool dude. I met him at that same show with A Great Big Pile of Leaves, and he had a custom guitar, and I was asking him about it. He was telling me about his friend who made it out of a tree that was in his front yard that died, and the wood was reclaimed, and it was really beautiful guitar. It was like a Telecaster style, but obviously custom made. Anyway, yeah, that's neither here nor there. That's the end of my mixtape. That's 10 tracks, if I can count correctly. I hope I can. I didn't even think about that. Now I'm panicking. Now I have to count. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I got it right. That could have been really bad. Anyway, congrats, Andy, on 777. I think you're above 800 now, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check that. But you're well on your way to 1,000. One of the best VC channels out there. What he does for the community is fantastic. Constantly giving shout outs to growing channels. He gave me a shout out pretty early on. Entered my contest, which was really cool. He's just good for kind of getting a lot of eyes on different things going on in the VC, and being, if the community did have leaders, I consider Andy to be a leader of the VC. It's an unofficial thing, of course, but you know what I mean. He's just a really great guy. And he made the comic, which is what I was trying to think of. He made one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the VC, which is this comic book. That it's just 3 stories from VC members illustrated, and they're really hilarious. And or one of them, Richie's is really hilarious. Andrew's is a little scary, and Mickey's is funny as well. But yeah, it's a really cool thing. He's a great artist. He's a really funny guy. Cool taste in music. Every time I see a Buck Owens record in the wild, I think of you, and I can never. Sometimes if they're cheap, I contemplate picking them up, but then I think he probably already has this one, right? But you know, that's all I got for you guys this week. Let me know what you think of the playlist. If you listen to it, I think I might compile a YouTube playlists together and put it in the description for this video. So if you want to listen to all that, a link will be in the description box, and hopefully I can get that sorted out for you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week, or maybe sooner, who knows? I never know. I don't plan these things that far in advance. But I appreciate all the likes and views and subscribers, all the new subscribers I've been getting. I'm really close to 200 now. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything, or not 200, I'm really close to 300 now. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything or not. We'll see. Take care, VC.